you should know that by being a racing driver, you are under risk all the time. And by being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. Because we are competing to win. And the main motivation to all of us is to compete for a victory. It's not to come third, fourth, fifth, or sixth.
These words echo the fearless spirit of Ayrton Senna, a legend whose driving prowess still captivate the world. His legacy extends far beyond the confines of the racetrack.
Ayrton was a charming person. He was very intelligent, and inside he was tough. He knew what he wanted. He knew who in the company or which various people could deliver. And he went after the guys and got them on side. And he got the best out of everybody. That's what he was good at. And on the track in a racing car, he was extraordinarily special.
And you have personally placed the Senna logo on the nose of the car. What is the reason behind it?
Well, I was always a good friend of his. That's easy to say, but we got on famously when he first started. And obviously he knew I was a big fan. And he appreciated that, and then we were given the opportunity of his driving for us. But he was all in all a remarkable individual. And I've been quoted before, and I'm quite happy to repeat the quote. He certainly was on the way to becoming a president of Brazil. He had politics in mind. I think if he had done so, he'd have probably walked it. The route to the presidency. I repeat, immense brain power, charm, charisma, and determination that you can't believe. All the things that made him a true one.
From the beginning, Senna's brilliance on the track was undeniable. Born amidst the bustling streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil, Senna's affinity for speed and adrenaline coursed through his veins from a tender age.
Pude conhecê-lo pessoalmente, a família, o pai, a mãe, todo mundo ia acompanhar ele nas corridas, e ele era fenômeno, ele estava ganhando tudo naquela época. Ele teve uma escola muito boa, né? Porque o pai dele deu a ele condições dele treinar muito.
Fora do Brasil, o Fullerton foi o grande adversário do Ayrton e, na verdade, foi com quem talvez ele tenha travado as batalhas mais épicas que não são conhecidas, né?
Fullerton foi o maior piloto de kart da década de 70 e 80, era um gênio, ele correu até os quase 40 anos. A referência de kart na época era o Fullerton. E o Ayrton tinha muita habilidade e era o título a ele conquistar, seria o título mundial de kart.
Ele era realmente muito veloz, naturalmente veloz. Sua sensibilidade para os níveis de aderência era incrível. Foram sempre disputas muito limpas, duras, difíceis, mas sem colisões.
Pela primeira vez, a FIC, a Federação Internacional de Kart, colocou esse milímetro nos cartógrafos, o carro não poderia passar de 110 ou 115 decibéis. E por alguma razão, o kart do Ayrton passou de 110. E ele foi punido em algumas posições que influenciaram no final da corrida, para ele não poder chegar à semifinal ou final com colocação de poder ser campeão.
O negócio dele era correr e ganhar. E foi com o Fullerton que ele viveu isso.
Se ele continuasse no kart, ele ia se tornar um piloto mais refinado. Mudaria com o passar dos anos. Eu não segui o mesmo caminho porque meu irmão mais velho morreu numa corrida de motos. Minha família sofreria muito se eu corresse de carro, moto ou qualquer categoria mais perigosa do automobilismo. Então eu tinha alguns anos de experiência para usar a meu favor e foi isso que eu fiz. A razão mesmo de eu me dar bem contra ele foi experiência.
Quando Ayrton pensou em ir para a Inglaterra para poder disputar um campeonato, meus pais não eram a favor disso, mas acabaram concordando como uma experiência, né, para ele.
Quando ele falou que queria correr de carro, eu falei, mas você não pode, você não está danado, você não, sabe? Ali é uma coisa de precisão. Né?
His way of driving, the fire in his eyes. Something on him was different from the others. He did want more. He wanted perfection and worked for it.
finger as Ayrton Senna goes through. He is now on his last lap, which is lap 67. Out goes the checkered flag, and Senna has won the jubilant Team Lotus Mechanics, and off goes Mansell. And you can see that this usually totally unflappable, imperturbable Brazilian is, for once, absolutely beside himself. Look at him, both hands waving with joy.
I could not see anything in front of me. With the cars going in front, it was impossible to see anything, and you had to go by, because it was a big difference in the pace that I was going.
I don't think I've seen a Grand Prix driver quite so jubilant as you when the checkered flag finally came out. What does this mean to you to win your first Grand Prix?
It means that all the effort and the years that I have put behind motor racing since 4 years old are giving me something good back, and not just for me, but especially for Team Lotus and JPS, and to all the Brazilians that cheer me up a lot.
When you talk today, even today, about Senna, you speak about Prost, and speak about Prost, you talk about Senna. So he's a part of my life and my career. We raced together, not for a long time being a teammate, only 2 years, but we raced a few years, competing. What was very good, obviously, is the fact that when you have a good rival, when you have this kind of fight, you put yourself in a higher level. I have 3 different periods in a way. There was one period that I did not know. It was the period when Ayrton was young. I was still racing, and I was like an idol. Everything I say is he told me. When I was racing together, we were racing together or competing one against the other one. It was really a difficult period, tough period, very intense period, and a lot of good things, a lot of difficult things. And then the period where I retired, the next 6 months more or less before his accident, and I discovered another person, another personality, and I understood exactly what he was when he was younger and when he was racing against me. And then I understood that I was really a sort of a model and modern model of motivation, and he was losing his motivation in a way. I was really one of the best part of my relation with him, not driving the cars but outside the cars, because I understood also what that means to have a motivation to fight somebody, and you can go over the limit sometimes because that is really your goal and you're losing your goal. It is still considered today as the best years of Formula One, and I really think it was, because we were different style of driving, different education, different personality, different ages, even if it's only 5 or 6 years difference, but he was younger, he was a young guy, I was the older one. We were very close in the last 6 months. We were calling each other very, very often. There's a lot of things that I wanted to say, and that is why I did not like the Senna film. Honestly, I need to repeat that today, because it did not show at all what was the real story behind that, and especially in the last 6 months. And it is a regret of my life that we could not show exactly what was the relation during and before. I cannot tell, but I understood that, and after. And that's what I miss about Ayrton.
This godlike abilities of Senna shed light on the enigmatic aura surrounding him. Moments of brilliance became synonymous with him, and everything he did, and he was always focused, always deep on his thoughts and actions. They never seen something like this. Behind the scenes, Senna's dedication to his craft was unique. He stays with the mechanics and learn how they built the car. He actually gives detailed info about the driver experience. He used to spend uncalled hours with the construction team. Every detail was important.
He was always thoughtful, as can be seen from his reflection about the best qualifying strategy.
Depends on each event, on what situation you find yourself. what are your difficulties, what are your strengths at each Grand Prix, technically speaking, relatively not only to your car but to other people. Then you have to play the game as it comes to you, as it presents to you.
He tried to get the maximum out of any situation, even at a test interrupted by bad weather. As the track dried up, he checked its condition in a borrowed Porsche. He was determined to use all the available time for developing the car, and suggested moving the track workers' lunch break.
Some places are dry, but here on the straight, quite damp still at the end of the straight. Can they stop 11:30? Maybe 11:30 to 12:30?
Very, very difficult for them.
Yeah?
Even for 12 is difficult, but 11:30 is very, very difficult.
Is it dry enough that you could just get a run so we could check the fuel pumps out, get that pressure in?
Oh yeah, sure. Sure, we can do that.
And then stop.
Later, on a break, while the track was still drying, someone brought a small road car with a new engine that fascinated the mechanics. Ayrton was interested too, but he couldn't wait to get back to work.
Time to work! Come on! I respect him a lot.
Ron Dennis was able to sum up his star driver in 3 words.
Simply the best.
Beneath the soft-spoken exterior, there was certainly passion.
Talladega, and we're just a few moments away from the restart of this event. Earlier today, the auto racing world lost perhaps, many people will tell you, its greatest competitor and best driver. Ayrton Senna, the 3-time world champion, was killed today in a Formula One race in Imola. 41 total career wins, 65 pole positions, and the 88, 90, and 91 World Driving Championships. Our sympathies to the Ayrton Senna family. He will be missed greatly by all of us interested in auto racing. And we're just going to jump into a car here and take a couple of silent laps in memory of the great former world champion.
The world's greatest motor racing drivers, Ayrton Senna, has died after a crash at this afternoon's...
Senna, 3 times a world champion, suffered massive head injuries.
Formel 1 Weltmeister Ayrton Senna.
A million people lined the streets of his home city, Sao Paulo.
The Brazilian government accorded full military honors.
We felt in Brazil that his home country has declared 3 days of mourning.
I think I was 9 years old, and I was racing that weekend. I just came in from a heat or practice session, and my dad's working away on the car, and I remember him telling me. I remember going around to the back of the car and just bawled my eyes out. At 9 years, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember exactly where I was, what spot. I could take you there right now.
On the loss of Ayrton Senna sent shockwaves through the world, a sad moment for everyone in motorsport and outside of it. 3 million people have attended his funeral. Some people call him the best ever, the true professional. Seeing Senna driving was like seeing Picasso painting. It was something that everyone could agree on. He was the best on his craft.
All those people in Brazil, for all his fans around the world, he will always be young. Ayrton Senna will always be fast. He'll never be old. He will always be the champion of Brazil and of the world. The grief, even today, may be the greatest statement I can make about what he did. when I meet a Brazilian, soon after that, I have to say, I knew Ayrton Senna, and I interviewed him over 100 times. I was on a cruise in the Nile River, and there were 33 Brazilians on this cruise with my wife and I. And I told one of them that I had interviewed Ayrton Senna 100 times. Sometime during the next week, every one of those Brazilians had to come to me. They had to talk to someone who had talked to Ayrton Senna. They even had to touch someone who had shaken hands with Ayrton Senna. It was like I had known and talked to and touched and shaken hands with God. And they had to do the same through me. These were people who were 8 and 10 years old when Ayrton won his championships. And as children, they were taught that this was one of the greatest men that lived with a Brazilian passport. When you dedicate 15 years to a sport, you're wondering, did you spend those years wisely? And I think I did. And I know Ayrton Senna. And I know that Ayrton Senna thought he had. Can you imagine? I mean, I would have loved to see Ayrton with children and grandchildren out on that beach. But can you imagine hearing a news report? Ayrton Senna dies of cancer after a long battle at the age of 50. I don't know, in some poetic, unjust way, it was almost fitting that he died in a race car.
That day, I suddenly realized that I was no longer driving it conscious, and I was in a different dimension for me. The circuit for me was a tunnel, which I was just going, and I realized I was well beyond my conscious understanding.